First contact fallout. The enormous chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Commander Ilara Voss stepped onto the central platform. 600 representatives from across the known universe watched with varying expressions of curiosity, disdain, and trepidation. Some leaned forward on crystalline platforms, others hovered in containment fields, while the more humanoid species simply sat in ergonomically designed chairs. Ilara stood tall, her dark skin contrasting with the silver uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her close-cropped hair and steady gaze gave nothing away as she surveyed the assembly. The past 3 days had aged her a decade, but she wouldn't let them see it. Representatives of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. I come before you today with a grave announcement. As of 600 Earth Standard Time, the United Earth Coalition has declared a state of war against the Vectory Dominion. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds, clicks, hisses, electronic chirps, and outraged shouts in dozens of languages. The holographic translator above Ilara's head struggled to keep up with the overlapping voices. High Counselor Zindar, an ancient being with translucent skin and 7 appendages that served as both arms and sensory organs, raised 3 of them to call for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. Commander Voss, Zinthar's melodious voice carried a note of genuine concern. Earth has been part of this council for barely 12 years. The Vectory have been members for 7 millennia. They are one of our founding species. We are aware of their standing, High Counselor. Then you must also be aware that they command the 3rd largest fleet in the galaxy, added Representative Orlin of the Myth Collective, his feathered crest flaring with agitation. We are. You have 23 ships, stated the Iridian delegate flatly, her metallic exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights. The Vectory have thousands. 24, Ilara corrected. We commissioned a new vessel last week. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the assembly, quickly stifled as Ilara's expression remained unchanged. This is no joking matter, Zinthar admonished. Commander, I implore you to reconsider. The Vectory Dominion has existed for 13,422 years, Ilara finished, and in that time, they've subjugated 27 species, established forced labor colonies on 42 worlds, and operated without consequence due to their position within this very council. She tapped her wrist device, and holographic images appeared throughout the chamber. They showed the devastation of New Haven, Earth's first extrasolar colony. Buildings reduced to rubble, bodies in streets, medical facilities overwhelmed with injured civilians. 3 days ago, the Vectory fleet entered the New Haven system, bypassed our minimal defenses, and bombarded a civilian settlement. 200,000 dead, including children, all while claiming they were conducting a training exercise in an uninhabited sector. The council chamber grew quiet. Even the Vectory representative, a tall insectoid being named Selvaran, remained still, compound eyes reflecting the horrific images. New Haven was registered with this council as a human colony 7 years ago. Ilara continued. Its coordinates are in your archives. This was no accident. This was a deliberate act of aggression against a species the Vectory believed would have no recourse but to accept their apologies and their reparations. High Counselor Zinthar's appendages drooped slightly. The council could mediate this dispute. There are protocols. With respect, High Counselor, the time for mediation has passed. Ilara's voice remained steady, but her eyes burned. We attempted communication with the Vectory fleet for 6 hours while they systematically destroyed our colony. They responded only after the bombardment was complete. Zelvaran finally rose, his chitinous body towering over his delegation. The Dominion has expressed its deepest regrets for this unfortunate incident. Our fleet commander misinterpreted his coordinates. We have offered compensation in accordance with council guidelines. Ilara turned to face him directly. Credits cannot resurrect the dead, representative, and we do not accept your explanation. You dare question the word of the Dominion. Selvaren's voice carried the distinctive clicking undertone of his species' agitation. "We have proof." Ilara activated another hologram, this one showing communication logs. "Your vessels received and acknowledged the colony's identification beacon 5 hours before opening fire. You knew exactly what you were targeting." Murmurs spread through the council. Several representatives leaned in to study the evidence more closely. "This is a fabrication," Selvaran insisted, but there was a new tension in his posture. "The logs have been authenticated by 3 independent council technicians," Ilara replied. "Their certifications are included in the file." "Even if this were true," Zinthar interjected, "war is not the answer. Humanity is young among the stars. The Vecturi are ancient and powerful. This conflict could end your species." Ilara allowed a thin smile. "Perhaps, but we believe otherwise." "Your confidence is misplaced," Selvaran stated, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Earth has no significant military technology. Your ships are primitive. Your weapons ineffective. The Dominion could erase your homeworld from existence with a fraction of our forces." "You're welcome to try," Ilara replied, her calm unbroken. "But there's something you should understand about humans, Representative Selvaran. We don't fight like you do." She activated a final hologram, displaying the 24 vessels of Earth's fleet arranged in formation. They were sleek, oddly angular compared to the rounded designs preferred by most council species, and they were small, almost insignificant against the scale of the massive Vecturi dreadnoughts shown for comparison. "The Earth fleet will depart our system in 48 hours, Ilara announced. "According to council law, we are required to inform you of military action. We are not required to elaborate on our strategy, nor to seek your permission." "This is madness," the Iridian delegate exclaimed. "You cannot hope to prevail." Ilara looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, optical sensors, and sensory organs of countless species. "Humanity spent most of its history fighting itself. We became very good at war. Too good. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times before we learned better." She gestured to the images of the fleet. "These vessels carry no planet killers, no genocidal weapons. We don't seek the destruction of the Vecturi species or their innocent civilians. We seek justice for our dead, and security for our future. How do you propose to achieve this against a vastly superior force?" Zinthar asked, genuine curiosity in their voice. "That, High Counselor, is what the Vecturi will soon discover." Ilara nodded to her aide, who began distributing data crystals to each delegation. "We have submitted all required documentation for our declaration. Our ships will avoid neutral territories and adhere to council regulations regarding civilian populations." She stepped down from the platform, signaling the end of her address. As she walked toward the exit, Selvaran's voice cut through the renewed murmurs. "You have signed your species' death warrant, human." Ilara paused, turning slightly. "No, Representative. We have merely accepted the one you issued 3 days ago." She continued walking, back straight, steps measured. Behind her, the Galactic Council faced a situation none had anticipated. The galaxy's newest species was going to war with one of its oldest, and despite the apparent suicide of such an action, the humans seemed completely unafraid. High Counselor Zinthar watched her leave, 7 appendages quivering with an emotion even their ancient species struggled to name. It might have been anxiety. It might have been anticipation. Or it might have been hope. Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka stood on the observation deck of the UDS Defiant, watching as the final preparations for launch continued. At 62, he was among the oldest active officers in the fleet, a distinction he'd earned through decades of service that began long before humanity knew it wasn't alone in the universe. "Final systems check complete, Admiral," reported Captain Maylin, appearing beside him. She was 30 years his junior, brilliant, and tenacious, with a tactical mind he'd come to rely on. "All 24 vessels report ready for departure." "Thank you, Captain." Hiroshi continued gazing out at the shipyard surrounding Earth's orbital station. "What's the crew's mood?" Determined, Mai answered honestly. Scared, of course. We all know the odds. But after New Haven, there's not a single person who requested reassignment. Hiroshi nodded, unsurprised. The images from the colony had been broadcast throughout Earth and its remaining settlements. The Vecturi had made a critical error in their calculations. They had assumed that a young, seemingly outmatched species would accept their losses and move on. They didn't understand humanity at all. Admiral, a voice called from behind them. The council delegates have arrived. Hiroshi turned to see his aide, Lieutenant Commander Alvarez, standing with three distinctly non-human figures. He recognized them immediately. A myth, a Euridian, and to his surprise, High Counselor Zinvarth himself. Welcome aboard the Defiant, Hiroshi said, offering the traditional council greeting gesture, right hand open, palm upward. Admiral Tanaka, Zinthar responded, their appendages moving in a complex pattern. We appreciate your receiving us on such short notice. Of course, High Counselor. Though I confess, I'm curious about this visit. Commander Voss has already submitted our formal declaration. Yes, and it was most illuminating. Zinthar's translucent skin rippled slightly. The Council has sent us to make one final plea for diplomatic resolution. I understand, Hiroshi said, gesturing for them to follow him into a nearby conference room. Inside, holographic displays showed the fleet's formation and readiness status. He did not deactivate them as the delegates entered. Once seated, the Euridian representative, whose name was Trellix, spoke first. Admiral, surely you understand that this conflict can only end one way. The Vecturi control thousands of worlds. Their military technology is centuries ahead of yours. We're aware of the disparities, Hiroshi replied calmly. Then why persist in this suicidal course? Orlin of the Myth Collective asked, feathers rustling. The Vecturi have increased their reparations offer threefold. Accept it, rebuild your colony, and continue your integration into the galactic community. Hiroshi studied the alien for a moment. Representative Orlin, are you familiar with human history? The myth seemed taken aback. I've reviewed the basic outlines provided to the Council upon your acceptance. Then you know we spent millennia fighting each other. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation, ideology against ideology. Hiroshi's voice remained even, almost conversational. We developed weapons that could destroy our entire planet several times over. We came to the brink of extinction more than once. Yes, a common evolutionary path for intelligent species, Trellix noted, but most outgrow such tendencies before reaching the stars. We did outgrow them, Hiroshi agreed, but not because we forgot how to fight. We remembered, all too well, what fighting had cost us. We chose peace not from weakness, but from wisdom. He stood and walked to one of the displays, bringing up an image of New Haven before the attack. A thriving colony with gleaming buildings and green parks. When we joined the Council, we believed we had found a community that shared our hard-won understanding. That cooperation brings greater prosperity than conflict. That differences can be bridges rather than barriers. His voice hardened slightly. The Vecturi have shown us otherwise. Their action was deplorable. Zinthar acknowledged, but isolated. One commander's error should not lead to interspecies war. It wasn't an error, Hiroshi replied. You've seen the logs. And this isn't about one commander. It's about a culture that believes it can act with impunity because of its power and position. He touched another control, and the displays showed the 24 Earth vessels. You look at our fleet and see primitive ships, inferior technology, certain defeat. He smiled slightly. The Vecturi see the same. And that, High Counselor, is precisely our advantage. The human advantage. 5 days into the war, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The atmosphere in the chamber had shifted dramatically from the previous meeting, where there had been dismissal and disdain for the humans' declaration. There was now confusion, and in some quarters, a growing respect. High Counselor Zenthar called the session to order. 7 appendages raised for attention. This council has received multiple reports regarding the conflict between Earth and the Vecturi Dominion. The human representative has agreed to provide clarification. All eyes turned to the central platform where Commander Ilara Voss once again stood. Her uniform was the same, but there was something different in her bearing. A quiet confidence that had replaced the controlled anger of her previous appearance. "Thank you, High Counselor," she began. "As requested, I will provide an update on the current situation." She activated the holographic display, showing a map of Vecturi territory. Several key systems were highlighted in red. In the past 5 days, Earth forces have conducted operations against 12 Vecturi military installations. All were successful. All achieved their objectives. Not one human vessel has been lost. Zelveran, the Vecturi representative, rose immediately. "This is preposterous. The human is lying to this council. Our forces have engaged their primitive fleet and what representative?" Ilara interrupted calmly. "Destroyed us. Captured our vessels. Please, share your victories with the council." The chamber remained silent as Zelveran's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "The data speaks for itself," Ilara continued after a moment. She expanded the holographic display to show detailed imagery of Vecturi shipyards, weapon platforms, and command centers. Each facility appeared intact at first glance, but closer inspection revealed subtle abnormalities. Systems offline, vessels drifting, defense grids disabled. "As you can see, we have neutralized these installations without destruction. The structures remain intact, the personnel unharmed, but they no longer serve the Dominion's military capacity." "How?" The question came from the Arcturian delegate, a crystalline being whose faceted body refracted the chamber's light. "Our analysis suggests your technology should be no match for Vecturi defenses." A reasonable assumption, Ilara acknowledged, but incorrect. She touched her wrist device, and the display changed to show what appeared to be a small, unremarkable probe. "This is an electromagnetic pulse nanite dispersal system, EPNDS for short. It infiltrates electronic systems and releases programmable nanites that temporarily disable specific functions without causing permanent damage." Murmurs spread through the council as the implications became clear. "Your weapons don't destroy," the Iridian delegate Trellix observed. "They incapacitate." "Precisely," Ilara confirmed. "We target command systems, weapons controls, propulsion, anything that serves a military function. Once disabled, we secure the facility, evacuate personnel to safe locations, and move to the next objective." Zelveran's voice cut through the chamber, heavy with fury. "This is not warfare. This is sabotage, cowardice." Ilara's expression remained neutral. "We define it as targeted intervention with minimal casualties. The Vecturi definition of warfare seems to include the bombardment of civilian colonies, so perhaps our perspectives simply differ." "You mock us," Zelveran hissed, his massive form trembling with rage. "The Dominion has dispatched its main battle fleet to your home world. Your colonies will be ash. Your planet will be broken. This technological trickery will not save you." "We're aware of the approaching fleet," Ilara replied. "In fact, we've been monitoring its progress since it departed 3 days ago." She changed the display again, showing the massive Vecturi armada in transit, hundreds of vessels, from destroyers to dreadnoughts, all converging on the Sol system. The sight drew gasps from several council members. "You see now." Zelveran clicked triumphantly. "This is the might of the Vecturi Dominion. Your species' brief emergence into the galactic community will end in righteous fire." "Perhaps," Ilara conceded. Then she smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "Or perhaps not." She expanded the display, zooming out to reveal dozens of small objects moving along with the Vecturi fleet, practically invisible against the void of space. They were attached to the hulls of many vessels, pulsing with faint energy signatures. "What are those?" High Counselor Zinthar asked, leaning forward. "More of our technological trickery," Ilara explained. "Deployed by stealth drones 2 days ago." At this moment, approximately 60% of the Vecturi battle fleet has been, I believe compromised is the appropriate term. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations as Selvarin stared at the display in obvious disbelief. "This cannot be," he insisted. "Our vessels have the most advanced detection systems in the galaxy. Nothing could approach unnoticed. Your detection systems are calibrated to identify threats as you understand them," Ilara explained. "Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, conventional explosives. Our approach is unconventional." She turned to address the entire council. Humanity spent centuries developing ways to fight enemies with superior numbers and technology. Guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, technological sabotage. We perfected these arts against ourselves before we ever looked to the stars. The display shifted to show the Earth fleet, now positioned near the edge of the Sol system. It still appeared hopelessly outnumbered by the approaching Vecturi armada. "When we joined the galactic community, we hoped those lessons would no longer be necessary. We were wrong." Ilara's voice carried no satisfaction, only resolve. "The Vecturi believed our technological inferiority made us vulnerable. What they failed to consider was that such inferiority breeds innovation." "What do you intend to do with the Vecturi fleet?" Zinthar asked, their appendages waving in agitation. "That depends on the Dominion," Ilara replied, turning to face Selvarin directly. "At this moment, we have the capability to disable every compromised vessel in their fleet. They would be left drifting in space, powerless but intact, their crews unharmed. Or what?" Selvarin demanded. "Or they can open diplomatic channels, right now, and we can begin discussing terms for a permanent peace. One that ensures the security of Earth and its colonies, and establishes new protocols for interaction between our species." The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembly. A species that had been part of the galactic community for barely a decade had effectively neutralized the military capacity of one of its oldest and most powerful members, not through destruction, but through ingenious subversion. Zelvaran's compound eyes fixed on Ilara, mandibles working silently for several moments before he finally spoke. "The Dominion does not negotiate under duress." "Then the Dominion will experience duress without negotiation," Ilara replied simply. "The choice is yours, Representative. But be aware, our patience has limits, as does our commitment to minimizing casualties. We prefer this approach, but we have others." She deactivated the display and stepped down from the platform. "I'll await the Dominion's response in my delegation's quarters. You have 1 hour." As Ilara exited the chamber, the council erupted in overlapping conversations. Species that had dismissed humanity just days before now discussed them with newfound interest, and in some cases alarm. High Counselor Zinthar approached Selvaran, who remained frozen before the now dark display. "Representative," they said quietly, "for the first time in my 3 centuries serving this council, I strongly advise you to consider negotiations." The Vecturi's mandibles clicked softly. "They are barbarians, primitives." "No," Zinthar corrected gently. "They are survivors. There is a difference." 72 hours later, Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka sat at the head of a large table aboard the UES Defiant. Across from him was Fleet Commander Zexvaran of the Vecturi Dominion, Selvaran's brother, sent to represent the Dominion's military interests in the negotiations. "These terms are unexpected," Zexvaran admitted, compound eyes scanning the document before him. "No demands for territory, no resource appropriation, no technological transfers. We have no interest in taking what isn't ours," Hiroshi replied. "Our terms focus solely on recognition of our sovereignty, non-aggression protocols, and reparations for New Haven, and the release of your devices from our vessels and installations. Of course, Once the agreement is ratified, the Vectory commander studied him with an unreadable alien gaze. I do not understand your species, Admiral. You had us at your mercy. You could have demanded far more. Perhaps, Hiroshi acknowledged. But that would only plant the seeds for future conflict. We're interested in lasting peace, not temporary advantage. Peace through strength, Zexferan observed. A concept we understand. Peace through mutual respect, Hiroshi corrected. Your species has existed for millennia. Ours is young, but learning quickly. We believe there's room enough in this galaxy for both our civilizations to thrive, without one subjugating the other. The Vectory was silent for a long moment, alien thoughts moving behind those compound eyes. Finally, he extended a chitinous appendage toward the document. The Dominion accepts these terms, with the amendments discussed. Hiroshi nodded, placing his own signature beside the Vectory's mark. Then let's begin a new chapter in our shared history, Commander. One written in cooperation rather than conflict. You are strange allies, humans, Zexferan commented as they rose from the table, but perhaps more formidable than we first believed. We prefer to be friends, Hiroshi said with a slight smile. But we're prepared to be otherwise if necessary. I hope your Dominion remembers that in the years to come. As the Vectory delegation departed, Captain Madeline approached the Admiral. Do you think it will last? She asked quietly. Hiroshi watched the alien delegation board their shuttle, the treaty secured. I don't know, he admitted, but we've shown them, and the entire Council, that humanity won't be dismissed or subjugated. That counts for something. It counts for everything, Mai replied. We didn't just win a war, Admiral. We changed how it's fought. Hiroshi nodded slowly, thinking of the billions of lives on Earth who would never know how close they'd come to devastation, and the millions of Vectory who would return to their families, alive and whole, because humans had remembered the lessons of their violent past without surrendering to it. Let's hope the galaxy was paying attention, he said softly, because this is who we are. This is humanity. We fight when we must, but we choose how.